when I was a young child, I had kind of a tough childhood. And I lived in a building in the worst part of Boston. I lived in a tenement in Dorchester. And the man who owned the building owned a bookstore as well. And I used to go to work at his bookstore. And he would, because I was a kid, he would pay me not with money, but with books. And I would read everything he gave me, whether it was Shakespeare or a book about paratroopers or dinosaurs or Madame Bovary or Dickens or whatever it was. And I got lost in that world and found peace in that world and tried, even as a young kid, to write. I used to write stories about my neighbors as they would walk home from work. I lived on the third floor and looked down at the people coming off the bus and write about what happened when they went inside. At 10 years old, it was terrible writing, but I was trying something. And I found, once again, peace in doing that. And it's a great privilege to be able to tell a story and to have somebody be interested in the story.
But when did television come in then?
Well, it all goes back to, again, childhood. My father was a butcher, so I grew up in the meat business. When I wasn't working at the bookstore, I was working at his meat markets. My father was also a small-time crook. He was a gambling addict and was into the low-level mob for money and would get in trouble all the time, would get attacked all the time. And we were finally made to move from Boston. And where we went, coincidentally, surreptitiously, was to Los Angeles, where my mother's sister lived. And we moved in with my mother's sister and her husband and their 3 kids, and my sister and my mother and my father. My sister and I slept on a couch for a year. But I was in Los Angeles. So had I moved to Chicago, I would not have had the opportunity to move into television. But because I was in Los Angeles, where most television and movies are made, I had the opportunity to meet people and come in as an assistant. I went on a game show, and from that game show, I got a job writing for that game show, and then meeting other people, other young kids that were in the business, and we networked. And I got a job then working for 2 of the most famous television movie producers at the time. And I started writing for them, started just writing scenes of other scripts that other people had written and that they were having trouble with. And I would write the scene at night and give it to them the next day. And they started getting into the movies, into the TV movies that we were doing. And then I started writing my own stuff and was able to cross over into making my own stuff. For a couple of years, Dexter was, helped create the brand of Showtime, and we were nominated for everything every year. Golden Globes, Emmys, Writers Guild, Producers Guild, Directors Guild, SAG, everything. And every year in every category, Mad Men won. And there was one year where we're at the Golden Globes and John Lithgow had just won, and Michael C. Hall had just won, and my director had just won, and they were about to announce the best series, and the camera was on me, and I was like this. And then they open the envelope, and they say, Mad Men. And Matthew Weiner was very gracious. He would always mention me in his acceptance speeches. And the joke in my house now, whenever we open an envelope, if it's the gas bill or a Christmas card, and we open it, my daughter will say, Mad Men.
You started writing in 1984, but the first show, the French show French people know you for is Parker Lewis.
Oh, I know, that's amazing to me.
It's so big here. Everybody knows it.
It's so interesting to me that we're starting this interview talking about Parker Lewis, because people don't even know it in America. When I did Parker Lewis, my influences
were older shows. I was standing on the shoulders of the Marx Brothers and George Burns. George Burns used to have a television show where he would talk to the camera. He'd be up in his room above his garage and say, let's see what's going on. He'd have a cigar. Let's see what's going on downstairs in the house. And Gracie's talking to the mailman, and let's go down. And so I was hungry to do something that could break the fourth wall. Do you know the phrase?
Yeah.
And be unexpected and be funny and a little dangerous. And so I came up with the idea of Parker Lewis, who basically was Tom Sawyer in my mind.
The other TV show that we know you for here is Dexter. To me, Dexter, the character and the show is really a produce of this third golden age of television, which was the moment where you could allow to have an anti-hero and like him or make us like him. Do you think Dexter could have happened 10 years before?
No. David Chase, bless him, broke the mold of what an American television hero needed to be, and with Tony Soprano. And so not only could it not have been done 10 years before, it couldn't have been done 5 years before. Or it could have been the first one to do it. I don't know. The thing about Dexter is, and we always have to remember, Dexter's a psychopath.
Feels good. Normally now is when I'd slice your cheek with my scalpel and get a drop of blood to remember you by, but I can't risk anyone finding a blood slide ever again. You're a fucking freak.
Occasionally in America, there would be a tragedy, there would be a killing. A kid would say, I did it because I learned it from Dexter. And I would get interviews about it, and then I stopped doing the interviews. But in the first couple of interviews, I would say, this is fiction. And you can be violent or loving or however you want to be in fiction, all the way back to the Greeks, all the way through Shakespeare, all the way to current Quentin Tarantino, whatever it is. And if you don't have the mental capacity to tell the difference between fact and fiction, then that's not my fault. That's your fault.
It's
your
education,
problem.
in a way.
Yes.
Tony Soprano allowed you to have a male anti-hero, but then you did Nurse Jackie, and we had a female anti-hero, and she was a bad mother, a bad nurse, a bad wife. She was like a bad everything. Do you think it's more difficult to make it a woman?
I didn't think it was more difficult. In fact, it's all the same to me. Not the same meaning bland, meaning it's all storytelling. Nurse Jackie was, Edie Falco played a woman named Jackie Payton, who was a drug addict. Drug addiction is a terrible, ferocious disease. And I wanted it to be looked at as that. And the drama, to me, is built in. How do I make her acceptable to you as an audience? That's the challenge. When I did Nurse Jackie, I hired 7 writers to be in my writing room. 4 of them were women, because I had a lot to learn about it. And as I mature as a person and as a writer, I bring more life experience to it. I have a daughter. I have a 19-year-old daughter. I'm married. I could not have written Nurse Jackie and what she was going through 20 years ago. I didn't have that experience. I couldn't draw upon it.
So now you're here for Feed the Beast, which is an adaptation of a Danish format, and it seems like for 5 years, Nordic countries are where we can find very great format. Why do you think it is?
I don't know why it's the Nordic countries, but it's also Israel.
Yeah,
Israel
true.
with Keshet
Yeah.
and that.
And it was even before that,
Yes.
with In Treatment.
In Treatment and
yeah.
Homeland. And,
How to film.
my favorite television show of all time is All in the Family. And that was based on a British TV show. I don't know what it is about Sweden and Denmark and why they can tell these stories so well that also translate so well to American television. The characters are damaged. There's kind of a wry subcurrent of humor, both which, I've created comedies and I love writing damaged people. And the storytelling is always surprising. And I don't know specifically why geographically it comes from there instead of somewhere else in the world. It's curious, if I may, that of all the shows that Americans consume and all the formats we buy, I can't think of a French show that we buy, and I don't know why that is. I don't know.
We have no humor.
Well, that's funny that you say that.
But why specifically this show attracted you?
The situation, the characters, damaged, impossible dreams, terrible histories, planning for big futures. That's gold for a writer. It's what I call the 5 Fs. Let me see if I can remember when I was pitching it. The 5 Fs were fate, fatherhood, family, friendship, and food.
And let's have a 6F. What a fantastic project.
I'm so lucky to do what I do for a living.
You're a happy man.
Yeah, no kidding. Look at this. Look where we are. Look what we're doing.
I know.
Yeah.
Perfectly segs into my final question, which is you've got a book coming out in August. What's it about? And just, I guess it's in the mystery genre?
Yes, it is. I write mystery novels. It's my 4th one. It's called Unthinkable, and it's a continuation of the same characters, and it'll be available on Amazon on August 14th. And also, the publisher is redoing my what's called my backlist, all my other books. So they're making a sort of a uniformly identifiable cover pattern, cover design for all my books. This one is about well, my lead character is a woman homicide lieutenant in San Francisco who's pregnant and whose husband is a cop on the force. And there's a mass murder at a restaurant, and one of the victims is their nephew. And they need to solve this murder, and nothing is making sense. And the only way they can solve the murder is by going through the lives of each of the victims, including their own nephew. And they get help from an unexpected source, a gangbanger in San Francisco whose younger brother was killed also in the restaurant. Again, it's called Unthinkable. I just got the first review from Booklist, and I got a starred featured review from them. And the reviews are just starting to come in, so I'm looking forward to bigger ones and better ones.
Well, since you're in the business, are you going to try to get any of these 4 into either a film or a TV movie or something?
Yes, we'll be going out with them as a feature film. After I get started on Nurse Jackie and get some time, we'll be going out with my books.
Well, listen, thank you so much for your time today. I hope you're enjoying a little bit of free time, and then right back into it with Nurse Jackie for season 6.
Thanks so much, Chris. I had a great time talking to you.